Satan, right? And he did that in what form? A serpent. This is one of those things we don't know what the serpent looked like, but it apparently had some legs. It was identified as a serpent. That term is used throughout the Scripture as serpent again, referring to generally to either snakes and or lizard-like creatures throughout the Old Testament. It's also used to refer back to Satan, talking about this encounter and kind of his cunning and his way of existence. So just some interesting little thoughts there. Let's go on to Genesis 3. Yeah.
In Genesis 3:1 it says, now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field.
Well,
Some kind of...
yeah, there's a distinction made between beasts of the field, which we would think of as, today we would think of probably grass-eating, ruminants and those kind of things, maybe even lions, etc. But there's some sort of distinction there. Yeah, so that's perfect. Thank you. That's great. Let's read. We're going to read through verse 7. Somebody mind reading the first 2 or 3 verses for us, please? And stop wherever you want, and we'll pick up. Whoever has it, Genesis 3.
Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made, and said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? The woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die.
Somebody mind reading 4 and 5, please?
And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
And then somebody finish us off with 6 and 7, please.
And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons.
So again, we see this encounter the first time that mankind comes into contact with Satan. It would appear as though Satan's original sin, whatever that was, most likely something related to pride, as we looked at last week. There's plenty of evidence to suggest that has already taken place by this point. We don't have a time period, but we know it was before the birth of the children, and we know the ages of at least Adam when Seth was born. So we can find that. So it's somewhere in that time period. It doesn't really matter if it's a few days, few hours, few weeks. It doesn't make any difference. But look at the way that Satan comes to Eve. He didn't choose to appear as a human. He chose to take on the form of a serpent, as we've mentioned several times already. He also didn't mind intermixing reality. Before this point, there's nothing to suggest that other animals could speak. So Satan clearly was speaking audibly to Eve. There's no reason to believe that that's not entirely the way that it went down. It would appear that that's the case. And he comes again, not in a way, right? That's not the way that he came at Eve. There is plenty here. If you'll notice the account, it would also appear that they were not standing adjacent to each other at the time, Adam and Eve. It looks like Eve was tempted in solitude first, and then she went to Adam with the fruit, so he knew how to get her at her weakest. In what ways did he tempt her here? Which of the 3 temptations did he use here? Yeah, he used all 3. He used all 3. So let's look at the lust of the flesh. In what way did he use the lust of the flesh here in this account? Yeah. What's that? Well, we don't know what kind of fruit it is, but yeah, that's okay. That's what we see. That's what we always see depicted, right? We always see it depicted as an apple. Could have been a pear. I don't know. I wouldn't be real tempted for a pear. I don't know about you guys. Maybe a fig. Who knows? But yeah, it was. Things were mentioned here, right? It was pleasant for food. She looked at it and said, in verse 6, the woman saw that the tree was good for food. So she looked at it and said, well, that's appealing. I mean, it's just whatever it is. It was pleasing to the eyes. So the way that it looked at what they had done is wrong.